Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right.
Okay. Awesome. Where my girls at? A cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down. It's going down. Where my girls at? Where my girls at? It's going down tonight. It's going down tonight on Monday. You are listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation-WFDF. And I am your host, Crisette Ellis. You know, I'm from the D, and I'm excited to be here with my girlfriends. I see Gloria and Sabrina, and Caterina is out enjoying her life with her husband on vacation for a few days. And so we want to give a shout out to Caterina, who's not with us on today. But when I tell you, we're so excited to welcome back our girl, Sabrina Goodwin. Monday, we've been missing Sabrina. We've been missing her, guys. She and Kenny, they have made their big move to Ohio, okay? And she's going to tell us a little bit about what she's been doing. You know, we saved your spot. You had one more day, Sabrina, and your spot was going to be gone. So you came back in the nick of time. So we're glad. You know, you only have a couple of days minimum for this show. It's like being, you know, on the end of a picture. You know how we roll in the Force of Friendship, right? You don't ever want to be the person standing on the end of the picture. But again, you're listening to 9:10 a.m. the Superstation with We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. And you guys, we are here Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. And of course, you can catch us on the radio on 910 the Superstation. So if you don't have that app, we encourage you to download the app so that you can take us everywhere you are, so you don't miss a show. But we love hanging out with you, and we love talking about issues, your issues, our issues, and everything. And so, of course, you guys know our mission is always to bring you some laughter, some light, and some lessons. And we're about learning, encouragement, and inspiration. And so today we are going to have yet another great conversation. Many of you leaned in last week when we talked about, do you have your affairs in order? And we had our special guest, attorney Lenora Grantham. We had so many of you, especially those of you that are watching us on Facebook, either the Force of Friendship Facebook or the 9:10 a.m. Facebook. You were commenting, you were saying, we need part two, we need part two. The phone lines were off the chain. So many of you were calling in with questions about getting your affairs in order. So we said to ourselves, because we're smart, they need part two. Because as far as it's count, we needed part one, part two, and part three. So we are all leaning in today on getting your affairs in order. And I'm excited that we have back with us again, attorney Lenora Grantham. We're going to bring her into the show in just a few minutes, but we're hanging out with our girls, and so much is going on around the world. So I'm going to kick it over to our girlfriend, Sabrina Goodwin. Monday, what's going on, Sabrina? You're looking good. Looking like you're in a new environment. What's up? What's up?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, Crisette, I knew I had to. So I was hustling, throwing boxes together. I said, I got to get on the show. I got to get on the show. We are in Ohio. Ohio, we are here. Now, we are barely here, but we are here. A piece of your girlfriend is here today. Okay, just a piece. When I tell you, this movement is no joke, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for a deadline. I'm grateful for supportive girlfriends. I'm grateful for a loving family. I'm grateful for a God who loves me. Despite our flaws, he pulls us together, puts us back together again. Because a couple days ago, I was just shattered in so many pieces. Stuff was everywhere. And so now I'm starting to feel like myself a little bit. So I'm on the phone because we don't get internet until tomorrow, but you should see me. I got this thing rigged up. I got a phone over here, an iPad over there. Got a hotspot going. I got a business meeting after this. So I'm grateful. You know, my grandmother who lived to be 102 said, a good life is someone to love, something to do, and someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And I'm grateful for this show. I'm grateful for my business. I'm grateful for loving friends and family. That you know what? You could take risk and pull yourself together. I said, Sabrina, you better get yourself together for this show because you will feel better when you comb your hair. Y'all, this is the only comb I can find. I couldn't find a brush or a comb. This is what I got to work with, and I made it work. So I'm glad. I didn't want to be fired, so I'm glad that I made the show today. Give me a round of applause, okay?
Give her a round of applause, Michael. Please give her a round of applause. Please, please. And you know what? We absolutely love Sabrina because you know what? We're not surprised. We're not stunned. We're not shocked because whenever we travel with Sabrina Goodwin Monday, she's going to leave something. We already know. And so Sabrina knows if she's traveling with me, the one thing she bet not leave is her foundation, because that's for sure one thing we cannot share. So we shared a lot, but we don't share foundation. But Sabrina, you're looking beautiful. We're so glad that you're back. We're so glad that you and Kenny made it safely to Ohio. And you know what, like you said, it's so much to be thankful for. When you think about everything that's going on around the world, oh my goodness, you know, when I think about those innocent people that were killed in Afghanistan when they made that strike, thinking that, you know, they had some bombs or that they were going to go and go to the airport and bomb it, or, you know, put on one of those vests and, you know, explode. And they got it wrong, you guys. And I said, that is the collateral damage of war. That is the collateral damage of, you know, when there are issues around other countries. And so my heart just goes out to them because I mean, what else can you do? I mean, saying you're sorry, and we appreciate the general for, you know, saying that, you know, it was a mistake. They're sorry, and they're looking at reimbursing the family monetarily, but money can't bring back your loved ones. And so, you know what? We always say, you know, there are some mistakes that you can fix, you know, make a decision. If it's the wrong decision, you can go back and kind of fix it. But there are some decisions that absolutely are life-changing and you cannot change. So when you say you are thankful and grateful, Sabrina, you all have reasons to be thankful and grateful. So Gloria, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, that was a big, serious one, Chris. That's a big, serious one, because you never know what tomorrow will bring. And that's why gratefulness is so big. And that's why we're so honored on the show that we can be free enough to talk about who God is in our life, and free enough to say it out loud, and free enough to talk about it, and free enough to be an example about it, because over there, they don't have that same freedom. They don't have that same freedom. And it really does matter. So every time I find myself being someone who complains about anything, I keep saying to myself, be conscious, because that means you're not paying attention when you're complaining about something that you can't do anything about. So what do we talk about today? Do we talk about football, or do we talk about the image? Do we talk about football, or do we talk about the image? Do we talk back and forth, flipping back and forth? Anybody who knows me knows I was about to go nuts. Here we go with, I love Mahomes. I love him. And he was playing the quarterback, and he went to the Super Bowl, but he was coming up against the Ravens, baby. The Ravens, who was the MVP quarterback. So I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so juicy. Sabrina, we thought last week's show was juicy. This game was really juicy, because they had slighted the Ravens to lose at home. What? Lose at home. Anybody knows me knows I love to watch the champions. And he rose to the occasion, and he was pulling stuff out of his back pocket. I mean, it was awesome.
Incredible.
Then you flip back.
Incredible.
Wasn't that great?
Incredible.
That was such a great game. And then we saw the Steelers play, and one of the newest superstars, y'all, when we talk about emotional management is important. A superstar, first year with the Steelers, got so mad, spit on the other player. That was it. He was thrown out the game. That was it. He was gone, thrown out the game. I mean, so sad to lose your temper. But to know that is so driven by passion and inappropriate behaviors, there's no room for it anymore. So it's good to see there's no room for it, but it's hard to see it when one team's guy gets kicks off, the other team guy doesn't. It's just still a problem. So then you flip back, you're like, the Ravens! And then you flip to the Emmy, you're like, oh, look at that dress! Oh, look at that body! Oh, look at that Emmy! I was like, oh my God. And I am personally a huge Ted Lasso fan. Y'all like Ted Lasso? Oh Lord, they got issues. They got issues, y'all. They got issues. I know all my friends be watching Ted Lasso. They don't even know what it is. They be like, neither one of them don't even know what Ted Lasso is.
I do not.
Sorry.
They got more Emmys than anybody else. Yes, exactly. Ted Lasso. It's just a feel-good show. It's hilarious, a feel-good show. And then The Crown, which I have not caught up on. So I was loving the Emmys. I was loving Cedric the Entertainment, cracking jokes. You know, Cedric goes crazy. He just talks about anything and everything. So that was exciting. It's exciting
Gloria,
to see. Huh?
What about, now I didn't get a chance to see all of the Emmys, but the part that had me sit up and literally had my heart just swell with pride, and literally I got a little emotional watching Felicia Rashad and listening to her speech. And
you mean Debbie Allen?
I'm sorry. Yes, that's Felicia is her sister, Debbie Allen.
Right.
That's what I meant to say. When I tell you her life, what she has done with it, her speech was absolutely phenomenal. She got a standing ovation, as she should have. But I was so glad that I caught that part of the end.
Yes, and Gayle King rolled her out the way she should have, and then rolled her out again this morning the way she should have. And when you really go back, I mean, I challenge everybody to go find that part on YouTube, because Debbie Allen and what she did, she gave all of us a challenge. She talked to every person, and then she looked to the camera and said to the young people, you got this. It's your turn. It's your turn to take this earth that we're leaving you. Because, you know, ever since that show we did our global change, I'm like all over the global change. And of course, she went to Howard University. So I was like, you know, it's just crazy. So I didn't know what to talk about today. So let me stop talking so we can talk about the topic of the day. Because if I don't stop talking, we're going to go back to football or the Emmys. Football or the Emmys.
And both of those were so exciting. But today, you guys, again, this is part 2 of a conversation that we had last week about getting your affairs in order. And, you know, we know sometimes it is a conversation that makes people uncomfortable, because when you talk about getting your affairs in order, you think automatically death. But last week we were here with attorney Lenora Grantham, and let's go ahead and bring her to the stage. Yay, there she is.
Hello, ladies.
Hello. I'm so glad to have her back. Let me just say this, attorney Grantham, you know you're bad. You're super bad all day long. Well, we got to bring you back for a part two, because the conversation was so good. So many people were listening. So many people were asking questions, and we knew that an hour just was not a lot. It was not enough time. And so we want to kind of pick up and hit on some things. I know before you left, you're like, oh my goodness, this conversation is so many more things you did not get a chance to cover. And so we're excited. Lenora has her own practice, the law offices of Lenora Grantham, that just rolls off your tongue. I'm so proud of her. She is a mother of 3 amazing children, and literally made a decision to become, she was doing something else and then decided to become an attorney. So we didn't talk anything about that, Lenora. So tell them a little bit about what you did prior to becoming an attorney and why you decided to switch gears and become an attorney.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies, for having me on the show again. I am very, very excited to be here. And yes, I do love talking about estate planning because it is so needed in our community. And I just love to help others in that way. And yes, like you said, Crisette, I was not always an attorney. I live in Detroit, born and raised, work in the automotive industry, worked for a tier 1 automotive supplier for 21 years, actually. I went to law school, just went in the downturn of the economy in 2009. The economy was going down, and of course, automotive, the whole thing with the gas prices and the trucks, and we were a truck auto company town. And I just said, you know what, I want to do something different. I want to do a niche, something that's not, not a master's degree, but something more specific. So I decided to go to law school. 3 kids. I was a single parent at that time, working full time. And I went to law school at night, 3 nights a week. And if you know anything about
wait a minute, hold up just a minute. We could do a whole show about how you did all of that, the desire to all that, what drove that, what you had to move around, the women that. I just want to stop and say congratulations. And you ain't even finished talking. But that right there is such a ton of knowledge right there. And I'm so glad you said all of that, because women need to be reminded that women are still out there doing magnificent things at the same time, 3 and 4 magnificent things at the same time, and they can do it. That's very impressive. Thank
you so much. So yeah, so I went to law school, and like I said, if you know anything about the metropolitan Detroit area, I live in Canton, and I was driving to Auburn Hills 3 nights a week. I'd leave work and go there at 6 o'clock from 6 to 10. Classes were 4 hours long, and then drive back home. So finished law school, graduated, took the test, passed the bar, and I wanted to while I was in law school, of course, you study everything, but what caught my interest the most was probate and estate planning. And I really enjoyed the classes. I enjoyed that part of the law. And I continued to work for actually 7 more years after passing the bar. I stayed at my company because I was already at such a level at my job. And once my youngest has been out of high school since 2015. I'm aging myself here, but I decided it was time. It was time to step out on faith and leave corporate America and leave my job at a nice job that I had and step out on my own and start a law practice. And estate planning, probate and estate planning is where I landed. And little did I know when I left in 2020 that the pandemic would hit and so on and so forth. And it gave me time to, everything, went silent, everything went online. And it really gave me time to build up and start up and do the things that I needed to do to get started. It's been good. The biggest thing I do love is imparting knowledge on people and just sharing what I know to help them do things that I know we need to do, that we shy away from, or that we tend to put on the back burner, like we talked about last week. So that's a little bit about my background and how I am here today talking about probate and estate planning.
And you know what, Lenora, I'm so glad that you said that you love empowering people with knowledge, because we know that knowledge is power, and it is more powerful when you when you actually apply the knowledge that you receive. And so you shared so much with us the last time that you were here. And so to the callers, we want you to call in with your questions to ask Attorney Lenora Grantham. Our number is 313-778-7600. Again, that's 313-778-7600. So if you have questions that you want to ask, we absolutely want to take your call for sure. And so I know we're getting ready to go to a break. And when we come back, Lenora, for those listeners that weren't able to be with us last week, I just want you to kind of recap some of the things that you talked about. But then I know there's so many other areas that we weren't able to get into. So after the break, we'll be back. You are listening to We Got Issues on 910 AM, the Superstation, WFDF. And we're talking to Attorney Lenora Grantham. Grantham about estate planning. Are your affairs in order? If not, you need to lean in, and we'll be right back after the break.
Hey, Facebook, OMG, this is going to be so juicy. We don't often get the opportunity to have somebody come back so soon. So I'm so excited. And she's so relatable. I love the way her energy is, and she's so relatable. Now, think about this. When she was talking, get your affairs in order, I was thinking about the questions that you might have for yourself. I was thinking about the questions that you might have for friends of yours who have questions, who have asked you questions that you didn't know the answer to. And if you call and ask, if you lean in on that or write it here, and, we'll ask the question. But it would be great to lean into that, because you'll think of things that, how you have an expertise in something, but you don't think everybody wants to hear about it. So if you ask your question, it'll make a difference. I really want to know from our Facebook group, who in here loves football and who is your favorite team? Like, who loves it and who is your team? Why? Because it makes the tribe even more fun. I mean, Charles is like, when I talk about football, or he's like, I vote football. Okay, buddy, we got you. It was hard. It was super hard to think about that. So I want to know, because, when we start getting deeper into football season, you're going to see some craziness, or you might have a sport of your choice. Maybe you're like Caterina and love basketball. I don't know, but football got it going on for real. So I'm just excited to have an attorney here. I know I'm flip-flopping back and forth, but I think this is so interesting that she would be so powerful in her career, still want to make a switch, then go to school while she's raising 3 young adults in their teenagers, which is the most difficult time to be parenting. And she's got a long commute, and she's doing it at night. I mean, I was just like blown away with who she is. And so I'm really excited to hear more about her. I love the way people think. Okay, back to the radio station.
Back from our break. Yes, you are listening to We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation with the Force of Friendship. And we are talking about your affairs in order. We're talking estate planning. We're talking all about making sure that the decisions that are important to you, that you have made preparations to make sure that when unexpected things happen in your life, you've already planned for them. The saying, those who fail to plan to fail. But aren't you excited that you're tuned into We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, so that you can get smarter and go into action about getting your affairs in order. And we are here today with attorney Lenora Grantham. And when I tell you, she is just an amazing attorney, and she knows everything about estate planning and probate. And so many of you are able to listen, some of you are not. So Lenora, can you just kind of recap some of the things that you shared last week? And then right after that, we're going to take our first caller. So Lenora, we'll go to you, and then after that, we'll go to James.
Sure. So let me start with one of the things that you, Crisette, opened up with last week is just a little bit of statistics. So those of you that were here last week, the first thing that Crisette said was that 70% of African Americans do not have an estate plan in place, and that is true. And that based on 2021. Caring.com is where you can get a lot of these statistics from. But overall, in America, 68% of Americans do not have a will. And then, of course, when you take that to the Black and the brown community, Blacks and Hispanic community, that number goes up. Only 1/3 of Blacks and Hispanics have a will. Between 2020 and 2021, it's gone up slightly in percentage, about 6.2% higher for Blacks and about 12% higher for Hispanics. So Hispanics are even outpacing Blacks when it comes to having a will. One of the interesting things, however, and I won't talk a whole lot about statistics, is that in this past year, 16% to 35 have increased their having an estate plan or will in place. And they say that's due to COVID. So they are, for the first time since Caring.com has been conducting the survey, have passed the age group of 35 to 54 of having a will in place. So the younger generation is outpacing the middle-aged generation when it comes to having an estate plan in place for the first time this year, largely in part due to COVID. And then we also talked about the reasons why people don't have a will in place. You know, one, we worry about cost. It's going to cost too much. Two, I don't have an estate. We think typically estate, we think old white male. We think people with money. But we talked about everybody has an estate. An estate is simply the property that you own in your name alone. That's real and personal property. Real property is land and houses and buildings. Personal property is everything else. So whatever you own in your name individually, and that's the key point, we'll talk about that later, is your estate. So whether you have a house, that's your estate. If you have an apartment, you have a car, you have checking accounts, that's your estate. If it's in your name alone and it doesn't have a beneficiary attached to it. What's not a part of your estate is any asset you own that's in a beneficiary form. So life insurance policies, 401k, if you have that, you have a beneficiary, IRAs, and even bank accounts. If you've already gone to your bank and added a beneficiary, which is either a payable on death form or a transfer on death form that the bank will provide to you, that's giving you a beneficiary to your account. So that now anything that's in your account won't be a part of your estate. It'll go right to that beneficiary. So, you know, that is your estate. You do have something. We talked about last week the importance of the age. You know, when you start thinking about getting a estate, we talked about it is for the younger crowd, the younger generation, or the younger people. If you have property, if you have stuff, and you have an estate, and it's important to have that will in place. And also, even past the point of, you know, where does my stuff go when I die? We talked a lot about what happens if I continue to live and I should become incapacitated, right? We talked about the importance of having that medical and that financial power of attorney in place. Because again, if you're that individual where it's just your name on all of your stuff, which in a lot of cases it is, if you're a single person and if you're young, it's just your name, somebody needs to be a power of attorney or a medical or patient advocate for you in case you become incapacitated. So we talked about that. We talked about state to state. I'm a licensed attorney here in the state of Michigan. I'm only licensed to practice in Michigan. So we talked about, can I do an estate plan where I live now, but what if I have property in another state? What if I move? Are those documents portable? Can I take them with me? We talked about, yes, they are. Once you execute a valid will or a medical and power of attorney, that's definitely something that's transportable. You can take it from state to state. We talked about full faith and credit, a federal statute that dictates that each state give full faith and credit to another state's law. So that's perfect. You don't have to worry about that. We talked about powers of attorney, name in your power of attorney, you name who you would like to be your guardian should you become incapacitated. If you don't have a power of attorney, medical or financial, and something should happen to you, then you have to petition the probate court and get a guardian. Someone would have to petition the probate court and become guardian over you or become conservator over you so they can handle your affairs. And then that's lengthy. That takes time and it costs. You got to pay for the petition. And then you have to wait for your court date to come up and someone to be assigned. And that's time. We also talked about.
We covered a lot last week.
We did. Covered a lot. One of the things that I did want to mention is, and people get this confused a lot, is the difference between a power of attorney and a personal representative. A lot of people
Lenora, put a pin right there. I want to go to this caller and then we're going to come back because that is absolutely a great question. The difference between a power of attorney and what was the other one?
Personal representative.
and a personal representative. We have James on the line. James, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, James. Thank you for calling. We got issues.
Yes, yes. Thank you for taking my call there. I was wondering if you can explain why a living revocable trust is needed with the will, and also what is the price to have each created?
Great question.
Okay. So a living revocable trust. Okay, so it's kind of the same thing. It's just a lot of words. A trust, when a person creates a trust, they're the settler. They're the one that is establishing that trust. As long as you are, a trust happens immediately. Once you put that trust in place, you have a trust. You fund that trust. You put assets into that trust, and that trust takes effect immediately. Whoever is the trustee, and majority of the time, the trustee is the settler. So if I create a trust for myself, I'm the trustee, and then I designate a successor trustee once I die. So as long as I'm living, that trust is revocable, meaning I can change it, I can tear it up, I can do whatever I need to do with that trust. That's where people say living trust. As long as you're living, that trust is revocable. You can change it and do whatever you want with that trust. Once you die, that trust becomes irrevocable. So no changes can be made to that trust. No property can be taken out of it. No property is going to be added to it. It is now revocable, and the terms of that trust are cemented forever, and that trustee must follow out the terms of that trust. So that's when you come into the living trust. As long as you're living, it's revocable. You can change it. It becomes irrevocable. Now, you can do an irrevocable trust while you're living, but that's very permanent. And once you put that irrevocable trust out there, you can't change it. So most people don't do an irrevocable trust unless it's for a very, very specific thing. And then a will, again, that's something that we do. We create and we say where we want our property to go, and that doesn't become effective until you die. A will is definitely a cheaper document for your estate plan. It costs less than a trust. A trust can be very complicated. A trust is a pot of money that you set aside for a spouse or for children, young children, children with special needs, things that you want to take care. You know, you have to decide whether the money is going to come from the principal of the trust or the interest of the trust. So a trust is a much more complicated tool. People use it for tax reasons, gifting purposes. The settler is in control of the funds in that trust even after death. And that's one thing that people may not understand, because until that trust is fully executed and everything's gone out of it, that settler is controlling how those funds are distributed even after death. Because once you put it in writing and what I said becomes irrevocable, that's how that trust goes. So that settler has a much further reach on how that money is handled in a trust situation than they do in a will, because once you die, you just give out the assets of a will. And then the final question is about cost. Yeah, cost can be anywhere from, if you do a full estate plan, it could be anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000, depending on your assets, depending on what county you live in, depending on the attorney that you go to. If you're just doing individual documents, people call it a basic will or a basic estate plan. You could get an estate plan for $500 or $600. So it doesn't have to be that expensive, but it can be.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Boy, very clearly. Very clearly. I really appreciate your help. Now, how can I get your phone number and get in contact with you?
Sure. How they can reach you?
Sure. I can be reached via phone at 734-404-6528. I also have a website, Lenora Grantham lawoffices.com. And then I can also be found on Facebook and Instagram, and that's at Lenora Law. I'm sorry, it's Grantham, Grantham. And Lenore is Lanore. A lot of people spell it Le. You're welcome.
Thank you, James, for calling. We got issues. We appreciate you calling and checking us out. We also have another caller, Marathon. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
How you doing,
How you
Marathon?
doing, Marathon? Thank you for calling. We're doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I had a question. How do you come up with the monetary amount for life insurance?
I'm not sure I understand your question. You said, how do you come up with?
How do you know if you got enough, or that's what I'm trying to
Oh, okay. Again, I'm not a licensed life insurance agent. However, the rule of thumb for life insurance, as far as I've been told by insurance agents, is that you make sure you have enough to cover your expenses at death. So your loved one, for instance, if you have a home and you still owe money on the home, or if you have creditors, or you want to make sure your life insurance can keep your loved one in the lifestyle that they were living while you were living. That would be the basic rule of thumb. You want to have enough life insurance to make sure that your loved one is not struggling once they lose your income. Right. So if you're in a 2-income household or a single income household, you want to be able to provide for those that are left as if you were still, your income was still there for them. So that's my understanding of at a minimum enough. Right. You're welcome.
Thank you. Again, you guys, you can call in for to have your questions about estate planning answered by attorney Lenora Grantham. The number to call is 313-778-7600. Okay, Lenora, you agreed to talk to us about the difference between having an attorney and a personal representative.
So it's different between having a power of attorney. So a lot of people are under the false impression that, okay, I'm mom's power of attorney. Once she dies, I can take that to the bank and settle up her account. No, a power of attorney is only as good as long as that principal, the principal is the person who actually draws up the papers, is living. A person having the power of attorney, or it's called an agent or attorney in fact, they only have that power while that principal person is living. Once that principal person dies, the power of attorney dies, because you have to keep in mind that the power of attorney only has the power that the principal could do themselves. So if I am Crisette's power of attorney, I can do whatever she outlines, and it's a enumerated document. She's going to give me the power to handle her bank account. She's going to give me the power to handle her Social Security if I need to, if she should become incapacitated. She's going to give me the power to handle her, her Mary Kate, her business affairs, whatever it is that she may need me to handle for her. And also, a power of attorney is something that can be effective as soon as you sign it, or it can be. Let me back up. It's effective as soon as it's signed. So once you execute that power of attorney, you have to trust that person that you're naming as your personal representative to the nth degree, because they have the power as soon as you sign it, based on what you gave them in that document. Now, the durability of that power of attorney, we hear a lot of things. We hear power of attorney, we hear durable power of attorney. What makes that power of attorney durable is you have to list in that document that you're giving your agent the power to handle your affairs should you become incapacitated. So that's what makes that power of attorney durable. If that phrase, and again, this is under Michigan statute, if that phrase is not in there, once you become incapacitated, that power of attorney is now no good. And now, again, we're back in that state where we have to go to probate court to seek out being a guardian. So 9 times out of 10, we create durable powers of attorney. Go ahead, Crisette.
Wow. I was just going to say that right there is because this is the first time I'm hearing about a durable power of attorney. So you're saying I can have a power of attorney while I'm living, but if I didn't put durable power of attorney, if I become incapacitated, then even though they were my power of attorney while I was okay, that's null and void.
It ceases. Wow. That's the end. So a power of attorney, and you don't get a lot of attorneys who do that. We're always going to recommend that you do a durable power of attorney. And this is we talked about last week, the pitfalls of do-it-yourself estate planning. If you don't have the benefit of an attorney, explaining all these details to you, you can go on LegalZoom and pull down documents. You can go to the supply store and get a do-it-yourself kit, but you're not going to know all the ins and outs of these very complex and very legalese documents. So that's why we always say, and even probate, you can go to probate court and the clerks and the judge, not the judges, but the clerks and the registrar of deeds, they will give you the forms to fill out and they will assist you in filling out the forms, but they will tell you that we recommend that you get an attorney, and two, we cannot give you legal advice. So, we'll tell you what forms to, if it mustn't become valid until you become incapacitated. And that we kind of typically have gotten away from doing springing power of attorneys, because now you got to go track down to physicians and they have to sign off on you being incapacitated. And again, you're wasting time and money that you need to be using to attend to that person's affairs. So we want to make sure we understand that a power of attorney ceases at the point that principal dies. No third party is going to let you walk into their institution or let you handle any business of that principal person once they're dead. That's when now you go from being the power of attorney. Now you have to petition the probate court to become personal representative of the estate. So power of attorney gives you the right to do whatever that living individual can do. Personal representative or executor, that is where the court appoints you to handle that person's estate. So those accounts are going to be frozen. The bank is not going to give you any information. They're not going to tell you anything. They're going to say, bring me court papers showing that you're the personal representative.
Wow. But if that's in the trust, you're fine.
So the trust, you don't have to go to court. If you have a trust and you are the trustee, now that's where that successor trustee has stepped in, because the settlor has now died, who was the trustee in most cases. Now you're the trustee. You can take that document to the bank and you can handle their affairs, and you never enter probate court. And with these documents, I also want to add that it's good for the settlor or the principal, the person that's creating these documents, to take them to the banks themselves and let the bank put those documents on record. Because with fraud, banks are very cautious in taking documents. They are, and we've had clients come to us and say they're turning my power of attorney papers away. They won't accept this, and we're on the phone with the bank lawyers, and banks are very, not just banks, third parties in general. They're very afraid of being sued. They don't want fraud. So in some cases, if I'm the attorney in fact or the agent, and I walk into the bank with the papers, they may raise a little flag. So if you have a relationship with your bank, once you get those papers drawn up, you want to be the person to take them into the bank that you go to and put them on record with the bank. And that way the bank has already gotten them from you. And then now once you die or become incapacitated, your chosen person will have less of difficulty when they present those documents to the bank. So I do like to say that, because there's a lot of times people are confused between power of attorney and personal representative. Right. Those are two separate powers that the surviving person has.
Gloria, you had a question?
Yeah, that was huge right there. That was really, really big, because you hear about power of attorney all the time and you never hear how do you say it again?
Durable power of attorney.
Durable. I'm writing it down. Durable, because I did not know about that. Okay, so I have two questions, Lenora. I know last time we talked about this a little bit, and you said something about the state. Does that mean in the state of Michigan, you can only operate in the state of Michigan, or you can operate outside the state of Michigan?
As an attorney, I can only practice in the state of Michigan. If I wanted to practice in another state, I would have to apply in that state, and I would have to pass
and do the bar,
full bar, but the state portion of that state's bar, because from state to state laws can be different.
Okay, so then my second question is, because you touched on it before, the caller said that, and since so many African Americans do not have estate planning, the money that it takes to do it, you said there was a big range, but can we talk about that a little bit again? Because I think that when you start talking about the complexity of this law, my head goes into, oh, this got to cost a lot of money. Like, it's got to cost a lot of money. And there's two costs I consider. One is the cost that it takes to get it done, and one is the cost when it's not done.
Right.
You know, and so we have to pay attention to that. And as we, you know, give our tribe some lessons through the show called We Got Issues, at least we can start the conversation about what people can do to dispel what is holding us back, because it's not even in our conversation. I mean, seriously, we're around a lot of people, and I promise you this conversation does not come up.
Right. So a very good point. And let me say this. The cost of plant, I mean, just think of it like life insurance, right? Or auto insurance or any other type of insurance. You think it's expensive up front until you wreck your car. You know, we hate to pay car insurance until we wreck our car. We don't want to, you know, pay life insurance, but when we die, our loved ones have nothing to bury us with or to live on with. We don't want homeowners insurance until a tornado hits and our roof gets blown off. So we think these things are, you know, a nuisance and too expensive until you need it. However, the thing with estate planning is that it's going to happen. I've lived in my house all these years and it, you know, I haven't had some of the catastrophes happen that could happen to my house. Some drivers never get into an accident, but death is a must. It's going to happen. And what we leave our loved ones in turmoil so much, not knowing, and it's not our desire to, but we just leave them in a situation where they don't even know where to start. They don't know what to do. One example, I had a client, and it wasn't even a whole lot, but her husband did have a bank account that just had his name on it. He didn't have a will. She knew about the account because the bank statement would come to the house, and it was a few $1,000s in the account, and she thought it would be more costly to get the lawyer and pay for her to probate that estate than it was worth the amount that was in the account. And when I talked to her the first time, she put it on the back burner. And then I guess some of her friends or some people were talking to her and said, you know, if you don't do anything with that money, it's just going to go to the state. It's called escheating to the state. You should try again. And she called me back and I said, no, once you tell me what the amount in the account is, I want to help you more than I want to get money from you. So I'm going to work with you to say, you know what, this little flat rate for me to petition a court for this small estate, because there's different levels of estates, this small estate, you know, I can charge you a couple $100 for you to get a couple $1,000. So, you know, when you put it in perspective that way, it's worth it. Why would you not pay the couple $100 to get the couple $1,000? You know, why would you not put an estate plan in place and then have your family, you know, just kind of, you know, flapping in the wind, you know, when you're gone, because you're going to pay the court fees to probate the estate. You're going to have to do that. But then based on the size of your estate, there's an inventory fee. And that's a percentage of your estate. So if you have an estate worth, you know, if your house is worth a couple $100,000 and you got money in the bank that you were a sole name on, it wasn't joint with anyone, you know, if you got a sizable estate, you got to pay an inventory fee to the court to probate that estate. So and then you're paying for lawyers. So you're either going to pay for that lawyer up front, or your family's going to pay for that lawyer on the back end. It's going to come out the estate one way or the other. So, and then when it comes to naming a guardian and a conservator, and having your financial power of attorney and your medical power of attorney in place, once you have that in place, you don't necessarily, in a lot of cases, you won't need a guardian and conservator because you already have somebody handling your affairs for you. It's already legal and binding. Once you get into the court, you have to do reviews every year. You have to pay fees to the court. You have to pay for reviews by the guardian ad litem when the court is going to appoint me to review your guardianship. You got to turn in paperwork every year. So if you don't have to be in probate court, like Sabrina said, you know, I think last week with her mom or whomever worked for the courts, if you don't have to be in probate court, don't. And if you do have to have everything in a row so that it's quick, it's easy. It's not a lot of back and forth. Your siblings can disagree and fight over mom and dad's stuff, but if it's in black and white and that's what mom and dad said, that's how it's going to be. So you got to think of it that way.
Yeah.
Hey, Lenora, we have several great questions that our Facebook audience is asking. And one of them is, how is the durable power of attorney different than the healthcare power of attorney?
Okay. So in the state of Michigan, like I said, you have to have two different powers of attorney, one for healthcare and one for finances. So the durable power of attorney is your financial power of attorney, and that's for your agent to handle your financial business. Your healthcare power of attorney, which also is known as a patient advocate designation. You're designating someone to be your advocate. That's where people talk about living wills. We talk about living trusts, but living wills. How do you want your end of life to be? Do you want to be on a respirator? Do you want to have a feeding tube? Do you want to have artificial? Do you want to be resuscitated should your heart stop? Those are all the questions, or those are all the things that you're giving the power to your patient advocate. What doctors you're going to go to, what medicines you're going to take. Again, this is in an incapacitated state. Medical power of attorneys are only effective if you cannot make the decision yourself. So that's one document that only comes into play if you can't make the decision yourself. So you can put that in place. And as long as you can tell the doctor what you want, that document will never be activated. Once you no longer can tell the doctor what you want, then that's where that medical power of attorney comes into play. So you do have to have separate documents. And one of the things, I know we're running low on time, but one of the things, I have a daughter-in-law who works in the hospitals. She's a caseworker, and people in a cancer hospital, and people, when they're there, now they want to sign this medical power of attorney when mom or dad are about to go out. And once you're in a hospital, it's almost too late because you need witnesses to that document, and nobody in the hospital can witness it. Nobody in a nursing home. The laws are very specific on who can witness a medical power of attorney. No family members can witness that. So you have to have complete strangers witness that document. So when you're in the hospital, on those last days of cancer, on those last days of whatever, it's almost too late to get that document signed for that person to make those decisions for you. So those are some things to keep in mind. You want to put things in place while you can, well in advance of these situations arising.
Lenora, we have another. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Just right quick. So because you practice in Michigan, I know there are lots of our viewers and callers who want help. So can they call you? Will you refer them out? How do they find an estate planning attorney in their state?
Okay, so most states have a state. Well, I shouldn't say most. All states have a state bar website. I know in Michigan, you can go to the State Bar Michigan website, and there's right on the front page on the right hand corner side, you can type in the type of attorney you're looking for, and a plethora of attorneys will come up. You can do it by location, zip code, or the type of attorney you're looking for, and you can start there. But all states have a state bar website, I'm pretty sure, and you can start with your state bar website and look for, within your area, whether it's by zip code or county, for the particular attorney you're looking for. In this case, you want to look for a probate and estate planning attorney.
Excellent. And the point being, you're either going to pay for it one side or the other. So might as well look at this as an investment. Right. Get your affairs in order on the front end instead of catching up on the back end. This is what I'm hearing you say.
And the thing is, you want your family to be you don't want them fighting. You don't want to expend the bulk of the finances in the state with people arguing back and forth over the most minute things. If you don't say who gets what, the state is going to say who gets what. If you don't have a will, it goes to spouse, it goes to children, it goes to parents. If you don't have a spouse, children, or parents, it's going to start looking for, other family members. But you might want your stuff to go to a charity. You might want to not leave something to a child. You can, in a will, you can leave someone out. If you choose to do that, once you die and you don't have a will, that child that you wanted to disinherit, they're going to automatically inherit because the state didn't know you wanted to disinherit them. So they're going to get if you don't make a will, if you don't make a plan for where you want your assets to go. So
these children better be good because they don't want to get disinherited. Okay, they better be good,
Right.
parents. All right, okay.
Wow, this conversation is so good. Somebody said, Lenora, we got to have a part 3. We got to have a part 3. I think we have time for just one more, and I'll read one, and then we're going to have to say goodbye and plan for a part 3. But somebody asked, Adrian Martin asked, what do you recommend that married couples do to cover their adult children if something happens to both parents at the same time?
Yeah. Good question. So again, when you do your estate plan, when you're a married couple, typically what we do is the husband leaves everything to the wife leaves everything to the husband. And then if you die at the same time, there's a thing they do to see who died first based on, we'll just assume the higher income spouse died first because of tax reasons for that estate. But in your will, you're going to say, you want your stuff to go to your children. A lot of times it's husband and wife first and then to your children. So that's what you do. You just list it out in your will.
Okay. So if they both perish at the same time, then it automatically in your will would go to the children.
Yeah, if you list that in your will. And if you don't list it in your will based on the state intestacy laws, again, dying without a will, it's going to pass to your children. Keep in mind, though, if you have minor children, you want to name a guardian. You want to name someone to guard that for them. And you may want to name a conservator. That's another tricky situation. You may have somebody who's more maternal that's going to take care of your kids, but they're just no good with money. So you might have to name a different person as a conservator who's going to invest that money and make sure your kids have money to get them through their life. So there's so many, facets of this estate planning.
So many facets, so many nuances. Wow, Lenora, this has been another great conversation about getting your affairs in order. You guys, you've been listening to 9:10 a.m. the Superstation with We Got Issues and the Force of Friendship. Our guest has been awesome, amazing, attorney Lenora Grantham. Lenora, one more time, give them your telephone number. If you live in the Michigan area, give her a call. That number is
734-404-6528.
All right. Well, you guys, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Excellent information. Awesome.